So Tim, tell me about the history of the organizational life cycle.
Well, I can tell you about that, but I can also tell you about the history of the organizational levels, and they're two different things.
I think that would
in
be
my
some
mind.
helpful distinctions.
Yeah, the life cycles model was first presented to me by my mentor and coach, John Sherwood, when he was alive in the 1980s in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Early 80s, actually, probably 1981. And he used it. He used to live in Cincinnati, and he used it as a way of looking at life forces that were at work inside organizations as systems. And it starts with the decline phase and then the growth phase, and it's a bit counterintuitive, but it's easier to describe that way. He says that organizations as systems go through different phases of doubt, and you can characterize this by certain behaviors that go on in the system at those different levels of increasing doubt. So things decay.
Mm-hmm.
His fundamental presumption was that the decay is inevitable, that all systems will grow and they will decline and change.
Natural.
Yeah, and that's part of the rhythm of the universe, so to speak. And he said that, when everything is honky-dory, we're in a state of what he calls suspended doubt. And then in the system, what you find is people complaining that things are not working as efficiently or effectively as possible. And at the same time, management goes into some sort of denial that this is the case. So you've got the employees on one side doubting the efficacy of what's happening in the organisation, and management in denial, saying no, it's fine. And then at the next stage, if the complaints do proceed for long enough, then management will probably appoint a committee to investigate the problem and make some recommendations. Really, it's another form of denial, because they want to stay suspended in their disbelief that anything could be wrong, and they believe everything is just perfect. We are the best company to work for. There's one global oil company at the moment and one large professional services firm in the world, a global one too, that get the best employee ratings of any global company between them on certain dimensions. And I know from working in both those organizations that, like us human individuals, they are failed examples. But collectively, the employees in each organisation have suspended their disbelief about this, and they think they're working in corporate heaven. The next stage is that employees start to question the purposes and directions, and management goes into denial also, but it also takes on a defensive posture at this stage and says, no, there's nothing wrong, we're pursuing the directions, this is what the corporate plan says we should be doing, or this is what the strategic plan that we worked out at some fancy retreat was the senior executives, we're doing it, this is the Bible. Yeah, and some consultants, of course, yeah. So this is the Bible, so it's a resort to fundamentalism by management. All the while in the hope that if they continue to deny the operational doubt that's in the system and or resort to the Bible for the ideological doubt, things will quickly return back to a state of suspended doubt. And then we come to the third type of doubt, which is ethical doubt. It's doubt about the meaning of the system to people and their sense of belonging. So it's both meaning and belonging, or shared meaning, it would be an even better way of saying what John used to say. And that is that people begin to disidentify with the organisation. They say, once we were a team, then we were a group of colleagues, now we're just a motel. People come and go in the night and we don't belong to one another. And
what would they say about leadership?
Leadership is disconnected from the workplace, and they're non-responsive and they don't know what we're doing. Mm-hmm. They're doing, I should say, and we have no way of identifying with them. And then finally there's absolute doubt, which is an alienated, oppressed and depressed state of being where you have highly punitive responses from management to any questioning at any of the previous three levels. And you have people just getting by. They no longer identify with the system because they've been through their ethical doubt, but now they actively dislike being in the system, but they don't have any choice or any alternative.
Mm-hmm.
So as we go down this curve, we get to the bottom, and that's absolute doubt. But with a new company or a company that's regenerating itself, or an organization or a community, or I dare say even a marriage, there's some known and predictable stages of growth. And they are best described by answering three questions, which seem to be answered in real life in this order. Who are we, why are we here, and how are we going to put into practice our understanding of who we are and why we're here? The who is about our identity. Who do we want to be? And so you get, next week I'm going to sit with a gold exploration company in Australia in the city of Perth. And they want to focus on their vision and mission. They're a new company and they are really sorting out who they are. Mm-hmm. Absolutely natural. Mm-hmm. And appropriate. Mm-hmm. They might expect that it's going to be set in stone, but you and I both know it's this phase of their life. The second question, why are we here, is about their belief. Now the first phase, the who are we, John Sherwood called the myth level. The second phase, why are we here, which is really about what our goals might be, is the belief level. And the third level, the top level, when things are just below the state of suspended doubt, is how are we going to organise ourselves and do things that we should be doing or could be doing. And that's the level of norm, as in normative behaviours. Mm-hmm. So on the decline side, we have these three layers of doubt that creep into the system, which is operational, ideological, and ethical doubt. And on the growth side, we have these three layers of building that occur, where you build the myth, you build the belief, and you build the normative system of the organisation. And so John argued that organisations, communities, and all social institutions go through this cyclical process of growth, decay, and regeneration of one form or another.
Do they automatically go through a regeneration?
Not necessarily, and John, and in fact, John was particularly insistent that, and this goes to interventions a bit, which is a little bit ahead of where we are, but a problem at the normative or top level can only be solved by an intervention at the belief level. Mm-hmm. If there's ideological doubt, you have to go down further and rebuild the myth. Mm-hmm. So these three things. Now he argued that management, he called it management by surprise through attention to weak signals. And he argued that in every organisation there were signals that, if leadership was attentive to them, could be the source of new beginnings, of new inventions, of reinventions, of new ways of operating as companies and so forth. And if you think of Apple, pre the second coming of Steve Jobs, it was clearly at the bottom of the curve, and under his leadership it reinvented itself and developed a new myth, or an enhanced myth, a new belief system, and a new normative system to become, well, one of the most valuable companies in the marketplace value in the world. He argued that if leaders can attend to those weak signals, foster innovation and creativity, and providing those signals are consistent with the underlying myth, the company will never go down into ethical doubt. It will surf across the top of the wave, so to speak. Then Bob Dick and I took this model at the suggestion of a friend and colleague called Andrew Rooney, who had suggested to us, but it doesn't have to be a cyclical model, Tim, he said. It could actually be a model of layers or levels. And Bob and I said, well, what is the first layer equivalent to? The layer of operational doubt on one side and normative systems on the other. That's the level of what we call practices and procedures. And the ideological on one side and belief on the other is equivalent to what we call purposes and directions. And then the layer that's equivalent to ethical doubt, which is the myth on one side, the other side, we called identity and unity. And So we thought, yes, it is a layered phenomena. And then we realised that, in truth, there's a layer below that, which is a layer of universal energies, or what Plato originally, but Carl Jung in particular, and James Hillman, I should say, afterwards has called archetypal forces at work. So now we can think of 4 levels of work, or 4 levels of phenomena in an organisation, and they are practice and procedures, purposes and directions, identity and unity, and archetypal energies.
Well, thank you very much. That was a wonderful explanation
You're
of
welcome.
a very powerful model and a great tool to use in organizations.
You're welcome.
Okay.